How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In this one we're going to be talking a little bit about the new iPhone 5S. I'm going to be covering this phone a little differently to how I would normally review a smartphone, for the sole reason that you almost know everything about this phone already. It's an S model iPhone, which means its hardware is almost identical to last year's iPhone 5. It's still as gorgeous, as attractive, and definitely as hard wearing as it used to be. It's also still as small, and we'll get to that in a minute. As I mentioned, this phone is very similar to the 5. However, one of the main differences and main selling points for the iPhone 5S is the new Touch ID biometric fingerprint scanner, which doubles up as the iconic Apple home button found on the bottom of the phone. Essentially, you scan your fingerprint, up to 10 can be scanned, I believe, and then you can use it to authorize iTunes purchases and actually unlock your iPhone. This is certainly convenient, and I've definitely gotten into the habit of using it rather than sliding to unlock my phone. It's slightly quicker, but it's not exactly a defining feature until it gets integrated into more third-party applications, and it's definitely not a reason to upgrade from the iPhone 5 to the 5S. Another new addition to the iPhone 5S is the color changes. Apple have implemented a new color in the form of the gold champagne color, and they've also tweaked the black and slate color, which results in a lighter space gray edition, and this is the one I have here, as I personally kind of liked the color the best. They also, of course, still have the white and silver editions, which doesn't look to have changed all that much. And one of my favorite things is that the new colors seem to have fixed the iPhone scuffgate issues, so they're not going to scuff and chip as easily as they used to. The iPhone 5S is of course running Apple's newest operating system, iOS 7, which as you'd expect performs fantastically on the latest handset. You may or may not be a fan of the shiny, whooshy iOS firmware, and unfortunately the pitfalls of iOS mean you're not going to be able to turn any of that off or change anything up about the OS if you're not particularly fond of it. Personally, I like it. It feels like a good upgrade and with extra support for more functionality. Things like Control Center were a solid implementation and are keeping iOS alive when competing with their more customizable competitors like Android. As mentioned, the iPhone 5S is fast. Very fast. But the previous iPhone 5 was never a slow phone. Sure, the 64-bit processor is great for future-proofing, but it's not exactly going to result in a vast advantage with 64-bit optimized applications lacking in numbers currently. The performance of the 5S is indicative of Apple and iOS in general. It just works. Everything about the 5S performance reflects the apparent ease of use that the iPhone 5S has, and it's fantastic for the average person. Moving back to size now, the iPhone 5S is exactly the same size as the iPhone 5, which means it has a 4-inch display at a pixel density of 326 pixels per inch. A few years ago I wouldn't have been worried about this, after all smartphones are phones and not tablets. However, over the past couple of years the metadata of phones has developed, and the smartphone sizes have gotten to the point where I feel that the sweet spot for a screen size is around 4.7 inches. Here the iPhone 5S is next to the iPod Touch 5th generation, again identical in screen size, and here we have the HTC One, a 4.7 inch screen with a full 1080p resolution, one of my favourite Android phones of all time actually. And next we have the Samsung Galaxy S4. This is a 5-inch screen, again at a 1080p resolution. It's clear that the iPhone 5S is a lot smaller than a lot of the other flagships this year, which doesn't really work for me, but it may for you. It's all about personal preference when it comes to smartphone size. A lot has to depend on actually getting used to a phone size as well. Screen size and resolution corresponds directly to battery life, so I'm happy to report that you easily get a full day of use with the iPhone 5S. As long as you're not going to be playing games for 3 to 4 hours a day, you're not going to have any problem running flat if you charge up every evening. The camera is another improvement with the iPhone 5S. It's incredibly snappy and responsive and produces excellent results. The colours are very accurate, the low aperture and software additions that Apple have included with the new camera provide fantastic low light performance, and its sharpness I've not much seen in smartphone cameras. The software is also excellent, allowing filters to be pre-applied to images and video to be shot in 120 frames per second for a very cool slow motion looking effect. Of course, all of the software is actually available with iOS 7, apart from the slow-mo feature we were just talking about. It is without doubt one of the best cameras in a phone out at the moment. To put it simply, this is the best iPhone yet. It's the best iPhone ever. It's one of the best smartphones ever, with almost no question. But for me, I prefer the HTC One. That's because it's for me. For 99.9% of the population who don't care about customizing their phone or having the latest Android build, the iPhone 5S is the phone to get without question. It's one of the best phones on the market because it just works, and it works exceptionally well. If you're unsure about what phone to get out of the 2013 hot picks and you haven't had much experience with Android in the past, the iPhone 5S is a great option for just about anybody.